Hi guys. So I got over a pretty bad gaming addiction recently, and I've been thinking about making a video about it for a while because it's been a really interesting experience. A short-lived addiction, but quite intense, like quite surprisingly intense. I've often looked at addiction to non-chemical things, like shopping or gambling or gaming, as like fundamentally different to chemical addiction. Well, they are a form of chemical addiction, but to an addiction to a chemical that you ingest. And there are differences. They are different in some ways. But what was striking about this recent period to me was how similar it was to many experiences I've had with drug addiction. I would say particularly weed, because there's not too much of a physically addictive component with weed, but there's a lot of weird psychological stuff that goes on. And it was very oddly similar. So, I've always, played, well, not always, but for most of my life, I've played games. When I was younger, I used to play them all the time, obviously. And like when you're a kid, it doesn't really, well, it does matter actually, but you don't really care, when you're an adult. I think most adults have this weird feeling of like shame about gaming because you're very aware of time, you're aware of, your own mortality and productivity or lack of. And so spending hours, because that's usually what it is. A movie is quite long, a movie's 2 hours, but gaming, it can easily be 6 or 7 hours in one go. And that's a lot of time, and the time just disappears a lot of the time when you're playing these games, particularly modern games, and you can feel quite bad about that. But obviously when you're a kid, you don't really. I got really into Counter-Strike when I was younger, and because I wasn't getting any girls or anything, so it was easy to just play Counter-Strike with the boys, and that became like, rather than getting into like having a hobby that maybe was more likely to help me in life or help me get girls, for example, or like be physically healthy or maybe help me with my future career prospects, I just kind of fell into like just drinking energy drinks and playing Counter-Strike constantly. And I guess we accept that as normal now for kids, but probably it's weird for older people to see that. Like, not that my dad particularly took any interest, but I was just playing it for, like basically all day. Like I would get home and just play that all day, but you don't really think of it, And then there were a lot of more valuable experiences I had gaming. I remember Red Dead Redemption, that was really good. And that felt a bit more fulfilling and sort of like, it's not like hugely sort of mentally nourishing, but it kind of felt that way to me. I guess it is in some ways, it's pretty inspiring and cool. And, the games nowadays are amazing. Like the stuff they can do is amazing. But anyway, for a while, especially when I was getting really into like productivity stuff, and like I've become a bit sort of jaded about all of that now, to be honest, but there was a while where I went from being a complete bum in like my late teens, early 20s to trying to really pick myself up, and I got into all of these like, motivational speakers and all of this stuff and life hacks, and so I was like, I'm just going to stop gaming because it's just a waste of time, and it doesn't help me at all with my music or anything really, I don't know, my creative pursuits, not much. In some ways, maybe it has. So I stopped, anyway. And, once in a while we'd start again. And a couple of years ago, we got really into Apex Legends. And if you haven't played it, if you have an addictive personality, I strongly recommend not playing it. Honestly, it's like, I remember people used to talk about World of Warcraft in that way when I was younger, and that kind of game was never really my thing anyway, but I always avoided it because people always said that, and you used to hear all the stories of people who were like crazily addicted to it. To me, Apex Legends is that. It's like fucking addictive. Like, oh my god, it's if World of Warcraft was like heroin, I guess Apex Legends is like crack. It's just like a lot more fast paced, and oh god, it is addictive. And we got into that, and it was quite bad then, we were playing it a lot. And at a certain point, we used to fight a lot, like, because I played it with my friend, sometimes with my friend, and also with my girlfriend. And she was like, it's not that she was bad at the game. She used to do really annoying things and like just sabotage every match. She was quite good at the actual like shooting part, but she just used to do the most annoying, it seemed like sort of deliberately like sort of insolent things, you know, just ruin the game all the time. And it'd be like, you know, like just follow the team and we'll, you know, whatever. Otherwise there's people over there, they're going to kill you if you go that way. And she'd be like, okay. And then she'd go that way and like die. And it was maddening. I used to go insane. And I don't think they, towards the end, enjoyed playing with me because I wanted to win, you know, like I really wanted to win. And the nature of Apex Legends is it's not like a one team versus one team kind of thing. There's loads of teams, so you don't win that often. When we began playing it, like we didn't win for fucking ages. It took like, I don't know, a really long time. It took like 20 games before we even won. And so you don't win that often, so it's a big deal when you win. And I wanted to win all the time. Like I didn't care about getting kills. I just wanted to win. And because you don't win that often, when you do, it's like, I remember the first time we won, we were like screaming. We were going absolutely crazy. We were just like going berserk. Honestly, it's like we'd won a football match or something, like a professional football match. You know, we were just like so ecstatic, and it's just perfectly designed to trigger like a dopamine response from you. The way everything is set up, it was just perfectly made. They've updated the game a lot and modified it a lot, and I think they've kind of ruined it in that regard. Not ruined it, but it's not as good as it was anyway. But it was like perfectly designed at that time to just extract maximum dopamine and just to get you buzzing basically. And it would like, you know, we'd play it and then we like wouldn't sleep and shit, and or like we would sleep, but you know, you go to bed and your heart's pounding because you've just had like a really intense game or whatever. And we used to fight a lot, and usually I would get like pretty annoyed at her or at him, and then or me and him would get annoyed at her, or me and her would get annoyed at him. It was rarely me that was at fault, I should add. A strategic mastermind. Not so good at the rest of it, but never one for committing colossal, avoidable fuck-ups, and I could never understand why they always did. But anyway, I'm still bitter about it now. It used to drive me crazy. And it got to a point, we were fighting, and after one session I was like, I'm just uninstalling it because we're fighting over it, and it's stupid, and we play it all the time, and whatever. So we didn't play it, we didn't think about it for ages. And then recently, we ended up installing it again because we got an Xbox, and I was like, oh, it's free in the store, let's just install it, see what it's like on the Xbox, you know? And because it's free, this game. So I installed it and I played it a little bit on the Xbox because we'd always played it on PC. And I was like, oh yeah, it's pretty good on Xbox. And then I was like, oh, it's crossplay, so you can join me. You know, you can bring your laptop in here. And so she would sit behind me on the kitchen table. I would be on the sofa playing it on the Xbox. Then we started playing it again. And long enough had passed, we'd forgotten how addictive it is and how problematic it had been for us before. And so we started playing it again, and immediately we were like, oh, fuck, this game is so good. Like, it's so good. But it's good or stimulating and addictive, I think, kind of in the way that like porn and stuff like that is, where like you kind of know it's bad, or like junk food, you don't feel full, it doesn't really make you feel good, like cocaine, you know, like it doesn't make you feel good, it makes you feel highly adrenalized and like stimulated, and it's very moreish, and just it can feel good. It can be quite a cool like teamwork experience and a team bonding experience, and it's good to feel excitement, but I don't know if you need to be like super excited all evening, you know. Maybe it's better to relax and to be social and whatever. So anyway, we got into it again, and this time around for some reason it got like really bad, like really, really terrible. We would finish work at like 6 or whatever, and then it'd be like, okay, let's play some before dinner. And then we'd start playing it before dinner, and then that would inevitably push dinner back later and later, and then we'd be like, look, should we just whack something in the oven? Like, let's just put whatever on so we can play while it's in the oven. And then the food's like burning or overcooking. We're not cooking properly. We're just like putting some chicken breasts on a tray in the oven and chucking some paprika on them and being like, fucking just get it in there, let's play. And then we're like, oh, the dinner's probably done, but we're playing, you know, and we're like looking at the oven and thinking like, oh, let's just finish this one. And then you end up doing well, so it goes on for ages, and then you're like stressed because the dinner's, you know, burning or whatever. And then we'd have dinner, and the whole time you're eating dinner and you're just like eating really fast and you're all like pumped up and your heart's pounding, which isn't a good state to eat dinner in. And we'd be doing that, and then we wouldn't even like, you know, I mean, it's weird that I'm even presenting this as a sort of wholesome activity, but we wouldn't even watch much TV with our dinner, which I guess is in a weird sense a good thing. But we would watch stuff. We would deliberately find very short videos so we could eat our dinner looking at a video. Our modern life is like terrible, isn't it? But we would watch something really short, like eating our dinner, looking at the screen, and then just doing it as quickly as possible so we could move on and carry on playing it. And then we'd play it for the rest of the night. And it got to a point where we weren't sleeping well at all. And like, you know, because we tried to go to bed quite early and we had to get up early, and we were going to bed like an hour or so later than we usually do. And we were like really energized. And sometimes we would push it way too far. And we'd joke about it while we're doing it. We'd be like, oh, looks like we're, you know, ruining our day tomorrow. We're not going to get any sleep. And we'd be like, huh. And then kind of joke about it and be like, yeah, we're not addicted to this, you know, and then be thinking, yeah, that's pretty mad that we're doing this. And that started to happen every night. And then we got really into having desserts while we were playing it, like pastries and puddings and stuff. We started eating these chocolate pastries. And again, it starts out really fun and exciting, and then it just becomes like, I need my pastry and I need my game now. And yeah, it began to, like, the similarities between that and weed particularly, it was really similar to weed for me. One thing was that for the whole time in the back of my mind, and sometimes we would have this conversation with each other, but there'd be this dialogue of like, is this bad? You know, is this like really bad to play this all the time and to not do anything else? Because we have other hobbies and interests, you know, and we have like a show we do together, and we fully stopped doing it. And we stopped doing everything. We stopped doing everything else. Like, and I convinced myself I'm just not interested in doing anything else. I don't care about anything else. Everything else is boring. Like, I'm sort of angry about life, and fuck life. I'm just going to play this all the time because things aren't working out the way I want them to, and I don't care, and I've sort of given up. And then there'd be this other voice like, this is a bit weird, isn't it? Like, to play this all the time, is this a bit much? And what I've come to realise is if you keep saying that to yourself and you keep discussing these things with yourself, if you have to keep telling yourself or debating with yourself whether or not something's okay, it probably isn't. Like with weed, if every time you smoke you get hit with this like wave of anxiety and you're like, oh, why do I smoke every night? Like, do I need to smoke? Do I have to? Will I be okay if I don't smoke? Why am I smoking? Is this bad? Should I quit? What would it be? Just quit if so. If you have that voice, like, just quit. Because when you're doing something good, you don't have that. You don't have that nagging self-doubt. But it presents itself as doubt. And really what it is a certainty. Like, it's a certainty that the thing you're doing is bad, because you wouldn't have that, you know, doubt, in quotes, if it wasn't. Like, if you were doing something good, you wouldn't have that feeling. And you lose nothing by attempting to quit anyway and seeing what it's like. So we would every night have this guilty feeling in the back of our minds and be playing, and yeah, you get like I couldn't think about anything else, and all day you just want work to finish earlier so you can go and play, or thinking about it all day. Then we start playing it in the daytime, like during work, because we both work from home. We would start just like stopping in the middle of the day for like an hour or two to play. It would like delay important things like exercise and lunch and like, you know, important parts of living a productive life. And you go through all the weird psychological denial of like, no, it's fine, who cares, you know, you got to be entertained, you have to do stuff. I'm a grown up, I work, I can do what I want, I just like doing this. If it's fun, why does it matter? And like, again, it's not really fun. It's not really fun. Like, when it's like with weed, you know, when you first start smoking weed, for most people, I think, anyway, it's like a really fun thing that you do with your friends and you have a laugh together, and it's like a very active and involved process. And then over time, you say it's fun and you're like, oh yeah, I like to smoke weed and watch a movie, but it's not most of the time enhancing the movie in any way. It's actually probably making you uncomfortable and spiking your cortisol and making it harder to concentrate and affecting your memory. And I know it's not like that for everyone. I totally get that. But it's hard to maintain that spirit of fun when you're doing the same thing all day, every day, and you're completely emotionally dependent on it. And a couple of times they would change something in the game and we would go mental. We felt so angry. They did some updates, some really shitty updates. They got rid of the duos mode because we used to play it just as a pair, and they temporarily got rid of that, and we were so furious, like absolutely furious, and it ruined our night, you know. And then we tried to quit, and we decided we would quit for a bit, and then we did. And we only gave it like 2 days, and we tried doing other stuff. We tried playing some other games that we saw recommended online, and then those were shit. And we were like, right, we're still playing games. We're not doing anything productive. We're just sitting here playing a shitter game that we're not enjoying, and we might as well just be playing Apex Legends, because what's the point in, you know, like, why are we doing this? And so we just started playing it again after like 2 days. And we didn't try hard enough. We didn't actively engage with the process of quitting. And the same thing with drugs. You can quit and then be like, I miss weed, my life is shit now. But you're not actively engaging with the process of sobriety and with the benefits of it and with all the things, you know. You sort of, people will do it sometimes, like, or if someone, you know, has been forced to quit drinking or something, and they'll go and they'll be like, oh, I did this thing sober and it was fucking shit, you know, and they're like angry about it, and they're kind of deliberately not enjoying themselves, or at least they're just not making an adequate effort to understand that, like, it can take a while to get addicted to drink and to become dependent on it, and maybe it can take a while to get that out of your system. And similarly with any kind of addiction, I think, like, you need time to get used to it, and sometimes the benefits are immediately obvious, but sometimes you need a bit, you know, you need a bit of time. And so we didn't really try it enough, and then we got back into it, and then we would keep trying to stop, and then we started putting limits on it, like we have to stop by 10 p.m, we have to stop by 11, and like with weed, you know, oh, we'll only smoke on the weekends, we'll only smoke in the evening, and then you just gradually, you know, one night you go, oh, we've had a shit day, like, let's just play until 11, I don't give a fuck, like, I'm fed up, you know. And also you start chasing the good experiences you've had, and what we found, like, we started to get quite good and we started to win quite a lot, and it didn't really matter as much when we won. It would be like, you're angry when you lose, and when you win you're just okay. Like how when you first take certain drugs, you feel amazing when you take them, and when you don't take them you feel normal. But then after a while, when you take the drug, you just feel okay, and when you don't take it, you feel terrible. And that was kind of what started to happen. Like when we would win, we'd just be like, fuck yes, and just get like sort of angry almost, you know, just like, yes, come on. And then you just like, right, next round. And then that would happen, and I'd think like, what is that all we're doing this for? You know, we work all this effort, and sometimes, because we'd probably average like maybe a win in a night, probably less than that, you know. And so it would feel, it was like, this is what we're working towards, just to just sort of be like, yes, you know. And you see it with some athletes, like they get to a point where to them it's a disaster and a failure if they lose, and if they win, that's just what should happen. And so I'm comparing myself. I'm saying I'm the Michael Jordan of Apex Legends. No, I wasn't the Michael Jordan of Apex Legends. That was the thing. We got quite good, but like, you also, you know that you're never going to be that good. So like, it's not even a good skill, because we got a lot better than we were. It got to a point where we would have some pretty high scoring rounds. I got really good towards the end. I started playing as Revenant, for anyone who knows the game. I don't want to be like an enabler, because man, it's addictive, and I don't want to pique people's curiosity to play this game, because honestly you shouldn't. And I started playing really well towards the end, and that made us, every time we were gonna quit, we would like change characters and start playing as different characters, and we'd start like getting more wins or enjoying it more. And every time we would start to get bored, and I thought, this is really good, we're getting bored, this is good, we're going to get off this, which is a weird thing to think about an activity, isn't it? Like, oh, I'm so happy I'm getting bored of this because I'm going to be free from it. And we'd start to get bored, and then suddenly it would become really fun again. And towards the end, it was getting like seriously compulsive. I use the word fun. I mean compulsive. I mean exciting, maybe. It is like exhilarating when you're getting a lot of kills. Like, it's a very, very, very well designed game. I mean, apart from all the bugs and the flaws and the shitty updates and stuff, the actual core of the game itself, I think, is like brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. But it's sinister the way it's designed. It is designed to keep you addictive. They have all sorts of things in place, all sorts of systems and measurements and checks and balances that are there just to really to make it as addictive as possible. And they study it. They study reward circuitry. They make these things as addictive as possible. So the joke's on them, though, because I never paid a penny. So you just fucking wasted your time on me. I wasted my time as well, but they don't get anything from that. So the joke's on both of us, I think, really. The joke is on me, and the joke is on Respawn Entertainment / EA, of which Respawn Entertainment is a subsidiary. So you end up chasing this experience, and it gets less and less exciting every time. Same with drugs. They don't get better the more you do them, It's not like, oh yeah, every time I smoked crack, it got better. Eventually, you just feel like shit all the time, and you're sick when you don't have it. And you feel entitled and angry and sort of just hostile towards anything outside of the realm of your addiction and your craving. And so the dopamine part becomes very physical in a way, or surprisingly physical. It's not physically addictive in the way, but like, your brain gets very used to it. I guess it is, in a sense, it is literally physically addictive, but it's not, it's silly to compare it to things that have like intense withdrawals, but your brain gets very used to it, and you start at a certain hour, your brain's like, okay, it's Apex Legends time now, come on, let's play. And you just think about it all the time, and then it becomes less and less and less fun, and more, whatever. And eventually, I can't remember what happened. I think it was just, there were a lot of nights where the night would end after like chasing this dragon for like so long. I'm using the phrase, there are no dragons in the game, in case anyone's confused. For so long, and then we would end up, I'd be like in a bad mood about something that happened that day or something, and I'd be like, let's just keep playing, and it was like midnight, and we need to go to bed, and I'd be like, let's just keep playing until we get a win, and we keep playing, and then it gets like 1 a.m, and it'd be like, we haven't won, and we have to go to bed now, and you'd just be filled with depression, like a lesser version of the end of a night of doing coke, where you've had a shit night, and you've been like doing coke and trying to get something that you're just not in a good enough mood for, and trying to like convince yourself that your life is great, and just if you buy another bag everything will be fine, and then as it wears off at the end, you're like, I actually can't buy another bag, and even if I could, it would be a very bad idea, and I need to stop now, and I know that I need to stop, and I really don't want to, and I'm so depressed because as soon as I stop, I have to look back at what I've done with my night and what I've done with myself and with my time and my energy, and that's a tough pill to swallow. And yeah, when you've from 6 until 1 a.m, 6 p.m. until 1 a.m. just been doing nothing but playing a game, and your dreams are kind of on the back burner, and your apartment is a fucking mess, and you're neglecting your personal life and everything, and this hits you at like 1 a.m. and you've got to be up early for work the next day. It's quite depressing. It's not as bad as a drug come down, but it is quite depressing. And that happened quite a few times. And there was this feeling of like, this is pathetic. Like, I'm a grown man. I'm an adult. I'm 31. I've said this the other day, and I don't actually know how old I am. I'm honestly not joking. I'm pretty sure I'm 31. But I said I'm 31, and my girlfriend was like, are you 31? You're not 31. And then she put the seed of doubt in my mind, and I think I might be 30. I could figure it. No, I'm going to be 32 in 2 months. Yeah, okay, I'm going to be 32 in 2 months. I've just looked at the thing. Fucking hell, man. That's crazy. So anyway, I was like, yeah, I'm 32, and I'm like getting upset about a game, and I can't stop playing it. And I was like, this is just pathetic. Like, it's just making me so angry. So eventually one night I was like, I'm just uninstalling it. And exactly like with weed, there's a leap of faith you have to take. And if you're struggling with any kind of addiction right now, it's different for all of them because they all have different ramifications and they all have different, time periods, how long it's going to take you to come off it. And as I say, some have like severe physical withdrawal, some don't. And there's all sorts of different aspects. But there's this leap of faith you have to take where your brain, your monkey brain is like, no, if you stop playing this, we're going to be fucking miserable. But then your intellectual, awakened, more aware brain is like, I think that's bullshit, or at least I think, I can't feel it, but I can kind of see maybe that this is bad, and I think I should just try stopping. And it's a cold, hard reality. It's not an appealing truth. The more appealing, or at least enticing truth is, or enticing idea, not truth, is just keep playing the game. Don't think about it, just keep playing the game. The game's giving you a buzz, you're getting your fix, just keep playing it. But there's this cold, hard thought in the back of your mind, like, this is bad. And when you have that, you have to take that leap of faith, because you're having that thought for a reason, and you have to take that leap of faith and just do it. Just do it, basically. And with some things, with this, with weed, there's a feeling you can get when you fully decide, I'm going to stop this. You get this feeling, and it's like, it's just like, it's done. That's it. It's crazy because it's in you. It's all contained within you. All of this happens in your mind, in your heart, or whatever. And it's like a switch can get flipped, and you go, my life is completely different now in a second. My life is different when you fully accept, when you just fully embrace. But when you don't fully embrace that, you don't get that feeling. And all you get initially is the downsides of quitting, the bad part. But when you just go, I commit fully and I'm not doing this anymore, it's not like the most incredible buzz ever, it's not, but you just feel, okay, that's a relief. That's done. I don't have to be anxious about that anymore. That thought is gone from my mind. And I had that with weed, and it was really good. Like one of the times recently when I quit. I haven't smoked for a long time, but I stopped and I started again, whatever. But when I started this channel and I quit at the beginning of making these videos early on, then that time around, it was a good feeling when I was like, I'm done. That's it. I just decided it. And if you can do that, try it. It feels really good. And so that happened. Uninstalled the game. I was like, nah, I'm just not doing it. And the problem was we would enable each other. Like sometimes she would want to quit, sometimes I would want to quit, but it was rare that lined up. And in the end, it just took me sort of saying, look, I'm not going to play it. So, just don't ask me to. I'm just not going to. And that's the thing. You can only really do that for yourself. It would have been convenient if we'd both been motivated to do it at the same time, but it didn't matter in the end because I just said, I'm not going to do it. So she was like, all right, fuck it. She didn't want to, and she kept saying, I think we're going to play it again. And I was like, no, I'm not. And for a few days, it was shit. And I didn't really miss it, kind of. But we were busy and distracted. And after about a week, my subconscious mind, which had been spending the whole time, playing tricks on me to force me to play this game, to keep me there, not to force me. I had willpower, I had the choice, but to try and convince me to continue playing this game. My subconscious mind, which had been so invested in this, in playing all these psychological tricks on me and telling me this is good. This is a good activity for a grown man to like unwind after work. And by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with playing games as a grown man. It's not because games are for kids or whatever. I don't believe that. I think it's a great activity. It can be. But there is something wrong with being emotionally dependent on it and knowing deep down that it's bad and continuing to do it and squandering opportunities and making yourself unhappy over a game, like a game that you can't complete, by the way. You can't even complete it. Like, it just goes on forever. That's the problem with these kinds of games, which I'm avoiding those kinds of games now because there's just no end. There's no, So anyway, uninstalled it. It was boring for a few days, but then after like a week, I'd forgotten what it felt like, because before everything used to remind me of it, and I'd remember like what it felt like to get a kill or to get a win, and I'd be like, oh, let's play now, let's just fucking play now. And then after a week or so, I couldn't really remember that feeling anymore. My brain was looking to different things to get dopamine. I started getting really interested in my hobbies again because I had some dopamine left, because it fucking uses up. I know I'm speaking in very crude terms about dopamine here. I'm not a fucking neuroscientist, but essentially, in layman's terms, in less than layman's terms probably, it uses up your dopamine. I heard someone describe it as, because you have a feeling you want to accomplish things in your life. You want to achieve things. You want to overcome obstacles. That feels good. But a game allows you to do that, to virtually do that, to pretend you're doing that, to have the illusion of doing that. And it means you don't feel the need to do that in real life anymore. So things that, like for example, learning a language or getting fit or accomplishing one of your dreams or like making money, or they don't feel as good anymore because they take too long. And in the game you can kind of get some kind of approximation of that feeling instantly, more or less, not instantly, but without leaving the sofa, and very quickly. And so you don't care about those things anymore. And when you stop, or when I stopped, I began to care about those things again. I began to have an interest in them, and I began to get more joy from things that required a bit more, things that didn't provide such immediate gratification. And suddenly lots of colour started to come back into my life, and it's felt like, it's not like life is suddenly amazing, because I still have all my problems, and like money is always a thing. I think for most adults it's just pretty much the main thing. It's just always kind of there, But in other ways, in terms of how I spend my free time, life is a million times better. Like, I do lots of different things, and we're watching TV. That was another thing. TV became so boring, and we're watching lots of good shows now and really enjoying them, and enjoying the feeling of being relaxed, because we were never relaxed. We were always stimulated or busy or distracted, or and it was hard then when we weren't playing to stop like looking at our phones and stuff, because then it's like when you're on the toilet or you're doing anything else, you just need to continue that feeling of stimulation. So you're on the phone all the time, whatever. It's been much easier to have relaxation, to enjoy being outside, to enjoy being in nature, to enjoy learning languages, to enjoy exercise, to enjoy other games, but like games that have a story and a purpose, and where you play a little bit of it and then you're done, and you feel you're having some kind of experience. So it's been really good to quit. It's been amazing. And at the time, my brain, or part of it, a fairly dominant part of it, was telling me, this is going to feel really bad. Don't quit. Just keep playing it. Just play the game now. And it's hard. It takes some level of like courage to see through that. And so you have to have that, but when it's the right time for you, or when you have, someone else probably can't tell you to do that, but like, think about it, man. If you're having that experience with anything, just think about it, because sometimes, people have said in comments on some videos before, they've described like certain things they do or they take a lot, and like sometimes it makes me feel it sounds condescending to say it makes me feel sad, because it's not from a place of judgment or condescension, because I used to do the same thing, but I just feel it's a shame, because I know how convincing it can be, and you're like, nah, my life's better this way. I used to be convinced like my life was way better that I was on drugs all the time. Like, if I wasn't smoking weed, more really, if I wasn't doing hard drugs, I was smoking weed. There was a long period where it was like Phenibut, GHB, weed, speed, pills, like just kratom, like just anything, just all the time, or alcohol. And I was convinced at that time, I was like, I've figured out the secret to life. Being sober is bad and doesn't suit me, and I hate being sober. I fucking love being sober. Like, I love it. Because I've learned to engage with it correctly. In the same way, when someone smokes weed, like, some like uptight weirdo will try smoking weed and they'll be like, fine, I'll try it. And then they smoke it and then they just like sit there and they're like, I'm not enjoying it. And you're like, obviously you're not enjoying it. You're being a fucking idiot. Like, relax, listen to some music, do something. And they're like, I don't like this music. And you're like, oh, all right, stop blaming weed, you know? People do that with sobriety. They do the same thing. They stop smoking weed and they're like, this is boring. This is shit. I'm sober. This is fucking shit. It's like, you're not doing it. You're not actually doing it, you know? You're just being an idiot. So I used to feel that way. I was like, I don't like being sober. And I was just unhappy and just burying it with drugs. And the drugs would make me more unhappy. And I would keep, you know, whatever, this cycle would go on forever. And yeah, so sometimes, you know, people mention, you know, things they take or think, you know, that they take whatever substance like all the time. And like, I think people tend to, and look, maybe there are some extreme cases where it's correct. I don't know. Like, certainly some things that are harmful for others are not harmful for everyone, like weed. Like, there's a lot of people who smoke weed every day and who are very successful and very functional, and that's great. Like, I don't think it's the same for everyone. But generally, if someone tells you there's some kind of like chemical they take every day, or like some people have mentioned to me, for example, they're on like Mephedrone like every weekend and stuff, and if you have any doubt about that being a good thing, if you have that questioning voice in your head, just fucking follow it like all the way, because it's taking you somewhere good, but you have to persevere, but it's trying to get you somewhere, and you wouldn't have it if what you were doing was fine, you know? And if you quit something and you give it a real go and you really commit to quitting, you know, you're not imprisoned by that for life, but you have to mentally commit, I think, to quitting. Otherwise, you've got one foot in the door and you're waiting to go back to whatever it was that you were doing before. So yeah, fuck me. Games can be very addictive. It's another thing for me to look out for. Been better with the porn recently. That was, oh man, it's a crazy one, because it ties in with real needs that you have in real life, you know? So it's like, it's why I should probably have more sympathy for people who are addicted to food. I mean, I used to be pretty big, actually. I was like 14.5 stone. I'm not very tall, you know, so that was big. I was very overweight. But it wasn't, I wouldn't say I had a food addiction, to be honest. It was just a general lack of self-care. But yeah, I think really, like, yeah, the food thing, it's similar to porn in that regard, that you have that you do need to eat, you know, and you have a natural desire to like have sex and stuff. So something like food addiction or porn addiction is kind of crazy, because you can't just stop. Like, if you're a really problematic gaming addict or whatever, you probably should just stop, you know, if it's like ruining your life, and has been for years. And same with hard drugs. You have to at a certain point just say, I can't take them anymore. But you can't like not eat or not, you know, or whatever. So yeah, man. So that's better. And the gaming's, you know, it feels like there's always a thing. And now at the moment there isn't really a thing. I think now the addiction is stress, is anxiety. I've been dealing with that a lot lately. Like, I sit down to relax in the evening, I'm like, perfect evening, you know, everything's great, and I feel like shit. I feel stressed. I feel this back of my mind feeling like something has to be wrong, something has to be wrong. And I'm like, nothing's wrong. I'm like, no, something's wrong. I just haven't figured it out yet. There's definitely something wrong. And so I guess now I've removed all of my vices, at least for the time being, and that's still just there. God, man, it's hard. It's hard to be consistently stable and healthy and productive, but yeah, that's life. That's you know, there are worse challenges you could face for sure. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. As usual, really interested to know if you guys have had any experience with gaming addiction or anything similar, maybe a non-substance addiction, an addiction to a thing that you don't ingest physically, and or to something that's not a drug, basically. And yeah, that's all. Thanks for watching, guys.